They have enough money. That is the part that makes this so confusing to the people living it. The mortgage is gone, the accounts are healthy, the plan works. And still, every time one of them says the words, "Let us book the trip," something goes cold in the kitchen. Here's what I have learned watching this happen for years. They are not arguing about the number. They are both looking at the exact same number and seeing two completely different things, and neither one of them has ever said out loud what they see. I am Sam, and this is the channel where we look at what money does to people rather than what people do with money. Let me describe the two people, and I am willing to bet you will recognize your own kitchen in about 30 seconds. The first one looks at the account balance and feels safe, not rich, safe. That number is a wall between this family and everything that could go wrong. Every dollar added to it makes the wall a little taller. Spending is not a pleasure to this person. Spending is removing bricks. The second one looks at the exact same balance and feels something completely different. Freedom. That number is the reason they worked for 40 years. It is permission. It is the trip, the grandkids' faces, the years while the knees still work. To this person, an unspent dollar is not safety. It is a year they will not get back. Now put those two people at the same table with one bank statement between them. One of them says, "We could go in the spring." The other one hears, "We could take bricks out of the wall." And that is the whole fight. It is not about money at all. It is two definitions of the same object, and the argument is unwinnable because both people are completely right inside their own definition. Let me say something that I think gets missed in almost every conversation about this. Neither of these people is being irrational. That word gets thrown at the saber constantly, and I do not accept it. If you grew up watching a parent lose a job, or you lived through a stretch where the account got frighteningly low, your nervous system learned something in that period, and it did not unlearn it just because the balance changed. A wall is not a neurosis. A wall is a memory doing its job. And the spender is not reckless either, which is the word that gets thrown the other direction. A person who has watched a friend get sick at 65 is not being frivolous when they push to go now. They are pricing something the Sabre spreadsheet does not have a column for. So we have two sane people with two accurate readings arguing over one number and getting nowhere. Here is why it usually gets worse after retirement rather than better. While you are working, the argument has a pressure valve. Next month there is another paycheck. Money coming in makes money going out feel reversible. You can always earn it back, and both people know it, even if neither one says it. Retirement closes that valve. Now the pot is finite. Every withdrawal is subtraction with no addition behind it. For the person who sees safety, that turns every purchase into a permanent loss. For the person who sees freedom, that turns every delay into a permanent loss. The stakes went up for both of them at exactly the same moment, in exactly opposite directions. That is why couples who never fought about money for 30 years suddenly start at 66. Nothing about them changed. The valve closed. Now, what most people do about this does not work, and I want to name it because trying harder at the wrong solution is exhausting. The first thing people try is the budget. Sit down, list everything, agree on the numbers. It fails almost immediately because a budget is an answer to the question how much, and nobody in this argument is asking how much. They are asking, what does this money mean? A spreadsheet cannot answer that, so the couple ends up agreeing on paper and still feeling awful about the trip. The second thing people try is taking turns. You got the kitchen, so I get the boat. This one is worse than the budget because it turns a values difference into a scoreboard, and scoreboards remember. 2 years later, somebody can tell you the exact ledger. The third thing people try is the worst, and it is the most common. They stop bringing it up. The spender stops proposing things, the saver notices the silence, and they both get quiet in a house that used to have conversation in it. Nothing is being fought about anymore, which everyone mistakes for peace. So here is what actually works, and it is 3 questions and 1 piece of paper. Question 1, and you ask it of yourself before you say a word to the other person. What am I actually protecting? Not what am I saving for? What am I protecting? There is usually a specific picture behind it, and the picture is almost never the number. It is being a burden on the kids. It is a nursing home you saw once. It is the year your father lost the shop. Until that picture has a name, the other person is arguing with a fog. Question 2. What am I afraid of missing? Same rule. Specific, not experiences in general. The specific trip with the specific person while they are still here. The workshop you have wanted since you were 40. When this one stays vague, it sounds like restlessness, and it gets dismissed as restlessness. Question 3, and this is the one that changes the room. Ask each other to say the other person's answer back, in their own words, before responding to it. That sounds like a technique from a marriage seminar, and I understand if you rolled your eyes. But watch what it does mechanically. It forces each person to hold the other's definition of the number in their head for 10 seconds. That is usually the first time in years that has happened, and it is very hard to keep calling somebody irrational once you have said their fear out loud in your own voice. Now the piece of paper, because feelings without structure just make a longer conversation. Write down one number and call it the floor. The floor is the amount that does not get touched, not for a trip, not for a car, not for a good idea somebody had in February. It is the wall, made explicit, with a number on it. The saver picks it. Yes, the saver picks it, and the spender agrees not to argue about the size of it, because the whole point is that this person needs the wall to exist in the physical world instead of only in their chest. Then draw a line under it, and everything above that line has exactly one job. It is for living. The spender proposes what happens above the line, and the saver agrees in advance not to relitigate each proposal as if the wall were in danger. Because it is not. It is written down. I have watched this one-page end arguments that had been running for a decade, and the reason is not financial. It is that both people finally get the thing they were actually asking for. The saver gets a wall nobody can take bricks from. The spender gets permission that does not have to be renegotiated every single time. Two things to watch for because they are the common failure modes. The first is a floor that quietly grows. Every year it goes up a little, and above the line never gets spent because it keeps becoming below the line. If the floor moves, that is fine, but it moves in a conversation, not in silence. The second is one person doing the exercise at the other. If you write the floor by yourself and present it, you have not ended the argument, you have won it, and won arguments in a marriage have a way of coming back with interest. Before the story, 3 variations, because not every house has one of each. The first variation is 2 savers. This looks peaceful from the outside, and it is the quietest kind of loss. Nobody argues, nobody proposes anything, and the account grows in a house where the calendar is empty. If that is your house, the floor still helps, but the useful half is the line above it. 2 savers need permission written down more than anyone, because neither of them will ever be the one to ask for it. The second variation is 2 spenders, and I am not going to pretend the fix is the same. When both people see freedom and nobody sees the wall, the argument does not arrive until much later, and it arrives from outside the marriage in the form of a number that is smaller than anybody expected. 2 spenders need the floor to be a decision made once, early, while it is still comfortable to make. The third variation is the one I see most often in this generation, and it is a specific kind of unfair. One person handled the money for 40 years, and the other one did not look. Now they are both retired, and suddenly the one who never looked has opinions. The one who handled it hears those opinions as second-guessing after 4 decades of carrying it alone. The one who never looked feels talked down to in a conversation about their own life. Neither reading is wrong, and no floor fixes it until that history gets said out loud. If that is your house, the exercise takes 2 sessions, not 1, and the first session is only about the 40 years. While we are here, 3 sentences to retire from this conversation permanently. The first is, you are being paranoid. There is no version of this where that sentence helps, and there is no version where it is true. What looks like paranoia from the outside is a memory from the inside. The second is, you cannot take it with you. It is technically correct and completely useless. It is a sentence that tells the other person their fear is stupid, and nobody has ever been argued out of a fear by being told it is stupid. The third is the quietest and the most damaging. It is fine, forget I mentioned it. Said once, it is grace. Said for the 4th spring in a row, it is the sound of somebody giving up on the conversation, and giving up on the conversation is how couples end up sitting in a paid-off house not speaking about the thing they both think about every day. Let me tell you about a couple. I will call Marjorie and Glenn, and I want to be clear that this is an illustration, not a case file. They had been circling the same trip for 4 years. Every spring, Glenn brought it up. Every spring, Marjorie found a reason it was not the year, and by the 4th spring, he had stopped bringing it up, which is the quiet stage I mentioned. When they finally did the exercise, what came out of Marjorie was not about travel at all. Her mother had spent her last 2 years in a facility that the family paid for, and Marjorie had watched what that cost do to her father. What she was protecting was not a balance. It was her children's 20-year-old faces at a kitchen table, never having to have that conversation. Glenn had been married to her for 41 years and had never once heard that sentence. They wrote a floor that afternoon. It was, in my opinion, a larger number than they needed, and I did not say so because it was not my wall. They took the trip in the fall, and the thing Glenn told me afterward was not about the trip. He said the strange part was that once the number was on paper, Marjorie stopped checking the account every morning. That is the piece I want to leave you with. What looks like a fight about spending is almost always a fight about meaning, and meaning is not settled by arithmetic. It is settled by two people describing what they see and then writing down the one number that makes both descriptions safe at the same time. The usual reminder. I am not a financial advisor, and nothing here is advice about your situation or your marriage. This is one framework for one very common conversation, and if the money side of it involves large decisions, run those past somebody who knows your actual numbers. Now I would like to hear from you. In your house, which one are you? And if you have been on both sides at different times in your life, I would especially like to hear about that, because it tells everybody watching that this is not a personality, it is a position. If this was useful, subscribe. The next one I would send you to is the one on why people who saved all their lives cannot bring themselves to spend it, because that is this same machinery running inside a single person. I am Sam. Write it down, then go cut the grass.